Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome back for another card video. I made this card for the all to new blog hop anniversary. I'm using the Way Too Sweet set, the two popsicles up here in the corner, and I'm also using the You Are set. I love the sentiments in here. I'm using the Aspire for Greatness one. I'm going to start by stamping my popsicles. I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink because it works great with Copics. My paper is Nina Solar White. And I want to make sure that all these popsicles are at different heights, and the one with the fudge is the one that's at the highest point. So you can see I missed a little piece of my stamp here when I stamped it, and rather than try to stamp it again and mess everything up, I just take a Copic multiliner and just draw in whatever didn't stamp, and that's the easiest way to get that filled in. I always use an absorber to clean my stamps. I bought it at Amazon. I bought a big sheet of it and cut off this little piece literally about a year ago. So it's got quite a bit of use. You can see it's pretty nasty. It's really, really stained. But all I do is rinse it out under water and it works great. Now it's time to start with the coloring. I'm going to use 3 colors on each of these popsicles. The first one I'm going to work on is the purple one. I'm using some blue-violet colors. I'm starting with my darkest one, which is the BV08, and I go around the left edge and around the top a little bit and around the bottom a little bit. Then I take my medium and I blend that BV08, the dark one, out. And then I also take my medium up the right side. So I don't do the darkest on the right side. And this creates a shadow that's heavy on the left and light on the right. So it looks like it's got a lot of dimension. And then I'm just going to fill in the middle with the BV02, my lightest color. I want these popsicles to seem like they're rocketing through the clouds on this popsicle colored fuel. So what I'm going to do is create kind of a drag, I guess you could say, with these same colors. I'm going to start with the darkest one closest to the popsicle. And I found that it was really easiest to flip it over and feather the color upward. So I'm going to keep it dark at the bottom, and then I'm going to feather it just below the popsicle stick. And then I'm going to take my BV04, which is my medium color, and I'm going to overlap it just a little bit and still feather it upward. And I'm going to feather it pretty quickly in the center, but when I get to the edges, I'm going to be really careful to make a straight line because I want it to be very crisp and clean on the edge. And then finally, I'll take my BV02, my lightest color, and do the same exact thing, being careful to get a nice straight line on each edge. So I'm really fading this out as it goes down. My blue one's a little bit different because it has fudge on it, but I'm going to use the same technique with the dark colored on the left. And then I'm going to color to the left of each one of these drips that are coming down. And that's going to highlight kind of a shadow underneath each one to make it look thicker. And then I'll take my medium and go around where I had the darkest and then down the right edge like I did with the purple popsicle. And then I'll fill in the middle with the BG11, which is quite a bit lighter than the other two, but it's all I had to match, so that's what I used. When you have to make do with a marker that maybe doesn't match exactly, what helps is if you take that marker that doesn't match exactly and you kind of cover the whole entire area with it, which is what I did with that BG11, and it really kind of helps to blend the other colors with it. I also did the same exact thing with the green. You'll see when I moved to the green, my lightest green was a little bit more minty than the other ones, but I ended up coloring the whole thing with it, and it sort of added a little bit of mint to the existing greens. All right, so I'm going to speed this up and color through. I'm going to use the same technique on all these popsicles, and I will be back in a minute. All right, now that my popsicles are colored, I'm going to work on this fudge. It was stamped in black and I didn't want it to be black. I wanted it to be more of a chocolate. So I took an E29 marker, which is just a dark brown, and colored the whole thing, including the sprinkles. And I'll go back and fix those sprinkles later. And now it's time to add kind of the icy look to these popsicles. I'm taking the chisel tip of my Zero colorless blender and I'm kind of creating a curve at the top to match the line of the popsicle. And then after I make that single line, I'm going to draw vertically up and down. I'll start with big lines and I'll get smaller and smaller as I get to the other side of the popsicle. The colorless blender is pushing color away from the marker, and sometimes it takes a few seconds to do that, so you might not see the result immediately, so just put a little bit down and be slow. You can see I kind of move slow on this first line, and I go up and down and just wait a minute or a few seconds at least to see how much color is being removed, and then you can always take away a little bit more if you want to. When you're going to add detail like this with a colorless blender, it's always best to wait until your image is dry before you go in and add that detail. So notice I colored all my popsicles first before I went back in there with my colorless blender. If you don't wait until the color is dry, then you won't get that crisp, clean line that you're looking for. It'll be kind of more spread out because it'll be blending with whatever color is on your paper that hasn't dried yet. So I'm going to finish up with my yellow here. Drawing my line and then flipping it over and then up and down motion vertically, starting big and then just getting smaller to get that nice light reflection. I decided to remove the color from the sprinkles. I just have the fine tip of my colorless blender. And I'm just going to remove the color and then I'm going to work on that a little bit more later with a gel pen. To do the popsicle sticks, I'm just doing it really quickly, E34 first on all of the popsicle sticks, and then I'm going to go back in with the E31 to blend it out. Again, this part I waited on until the back part, the rocket fuel, was dry because I didn't want my colors bleeding into one another. I'm adding one more level of dimension with these popsicles by taking a C1 marker and just drawing a line along the left edge of the popsicle, and then taking my Zero colorless blender and blending out the left edge so I don't have any harsh lines. So it just sort of fades into space. So just a thin line of the gray, and just on the left, and then taking the Zero and just blending out that line. You don't want to blend too much because then you'll lose all your gray. And when you first put the colorless blender down, it's going to look like, it's going to be wet, and so it's going to look like it's dark, but it will fade away and you won't be able to see it at all. And it'll give a nice blend out to your C1. The last thing I'm going to do with these popsicles is to color my sprinkles with a white gel pen. It really made them so much brighter. I like the way they turned out. I want these popsicles to look like they're rocketing through the clouds, so I'm taking my Mama Elephant Landscape Trio die. It looks like clouds. It's got some stitching, and my Nita Solar White cardstock. I'm going to run that through my Big Shot, and then I'm just going to make sure my sentiment fits with the clouds at the bottom, and I'll use my Misty to get it lined up with my grid sheet, and I'm going to stamp it with some VersaFine black onyx ink. And then I'm going to take some Scotch foam tape. I buy it in huge rolls on Amazon. And I'm going to pop my clouds up, and I cut them much larger so that I would have some flexibility in fitting it in with the sentiment. And then I'll just cut off the excess on all three sides. And then finally I'm going to take this panel and put some ATG tape runner on it. And when I'm matting my cards together, I use the Misty. So I take the foam piece out, I put my card base in, and I use the lower left-hand corner to make sure it's lined up. And that is the card for today. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.